Is going on, everyone? Today is January 9th. It is Friday. This is going to be this week's recap of the markets. So here we go with market analysis. I'm going to bring up some charts to let you know where we currently stand. And then I'll also give you a few other tidbits on general market information, given some of the current events that are happening right now. Um, so this is, as always, positioning. This is probability, right? This is not prediction. That's not what we do. We don't predict because we cannot predict. We are not that smart. But what we can do is put ourselves in the best situation possible to make good moves based on the things that are happening in the environment. Um, so let's do that, right? Um, I am going to share my screen here and we'll take a look at the total crypto market. That is always a good place to start. So let's look at some charts. Let's look at some charts. All right. So again, this is the total crypto market. That means everything is included here. That is Bitcoin, that is Ethereum, that is um, all of your markets combined. This is the market cap. Okay. And so there's a couple things that I want to take a look at. We've talked about the channels in the last video here, but we're going to look at some different time frames because I think that's important. And then I also want to look at whether or not we are overbought or oversold in those time frames. So right now we're looking at a daily chart. Okay, so each one of these candles represents a full day, right? These indicators here, the MACD and stochastic RSI, these are going to tell us whether or not we are overbought or oversold. Anytime you have lines up here above this center line, you are overbought. Anytime you are down here, you are oversold. Conversely, for the MACD here, when you have lines that are up above the center line and green, you are completely overbought. When they're down here and red, like down here, completely oversold. That gives us indicators that the market could flip. It could start going in the other direction because if it's completely overbought or completely oversold. Now, again, you can see we're in a daily chart and we are not necessarily completely overbought or completely oversold on either the MACD or stochastic RSI. We're in this center land, this no man's land here. And up here on the MACD, we're kind of on a downward slope, kind of hovering on this center line. So we're kind of in no man's land. So this isn't telling us a whole lot. So why don't we go to a weekly time frame? And we can see this tells us a bit more information because we are completely oversold on a weekly time frame, right? Down here for stochastic RSI. We are also completely oversold on the MACD. And we can see that we are trending in the upward direction on a weekly time frame. We're just starting to curve up here, trending in the upward direction. And that makes sense when we look at our candles, right? We printed a green candle here and a green candle here for the first time. The last week of December was green, and this first week of January was green. So momentum wise, that's showing us we're starting to gain positive momentum on the weekly time frame. So daily time frame, we're kind of indecisive. Weekly time frame, we are gaining positive momentum. Well, what happens if we look at smaller time frames? Let's go to a 4-hour chart. Back into more of a no man's land. an hour chart. Again, kind of no man's land here. So these to me are not telling us a ton in terms of the MACD, stochastic RSI indicators. Now, we'll echo this sentiment if we're looking at the total market cap and the total three. They typically do, right? Why we would look at total two and total three is just to eliminate Bitcoin or Ethereum. If we're trying to narrow our scope down and look at other cryptos, but in this sense, it's not really telling us any other any other information. Now, what I do think is interesting. The last time when we took a look at Bitcoin's chart, I'm gonna get rid of these stochastic and MACD indicators. I drew out a couple options for us. If you saw the previous video, right? And what I said was there are two cases, right? This one represented the bull case, or the case in which we continue upwards. I want you guys to start getting this naming convention down, bull being up, bear being down. This would be the bear case, right? And what I did to get here was basically I just copied over previous bull and bear patterns, and I projected them on here. So that's what we're doing. We're analyzing, we're projecting a bit. But what is important, a couple things. Number one, you might be saying, okay, we went up since our last call. We were previously somewhere over here. So we went up and we went down. What does that mean? It means we're still in this sort of ranging area. What do I mean by ranging? We are basically going sideways. So to me, this is all ranging. I could even go lower down here, and I would still consider this all ranging if I zoom out a bit more. And why I want to be clear about this, because I previously said buying opportunities for me started around the midsection of this range, or roughly 85,000, down to about 76,000. Again, fact check me. Go look at my other video a week ago. That's where I said I am a buyer for not only Bitcoin, but for other cryptos. While Bitcoin is 85,000 to 75,000, I am buying Bitcoin and other cryptos. When it is in the upper range, this 85,000 to 95,000, I'm not necessarily a buyer, but that is normal to me. That being within those ranges is normal activity. I don't want to buy because I think you can have better opportunities, but it won't shock me if we go up to 95,000, just like it wouldn't shock me if we go down to 75,000. Well, this past week, we did just that, right? Let's look at, well, this actually was very specifically January 5th. We hit roughly $94,885. So that's not that rough. That's a little more exact. But that's roughly 95,000. Normal, right? Completely normal. That's what we were expecting to range. In fact, I'm expecting us to range, be within this 75 to 95,000 mark from the time we entered it, which was way back. Where were we here? Way back November 15th. Of course, I didn't know this on November 14th or 15th because I can't see the future, but I can recognize patterns. And this is textbook pattern recognition here. So look at where these two charts start to diverge. Somewhere around here, about 187 days, maybe 170 days, somewhere in that mark. Now, would I be shocked if they diverged, if we went way up or way down in 100 days, or in 75 days, or in 125 days? No. Again, this isn't exact science. This is projecting. So no, I wouldn't be shocked either way. But at some point, we're gonna diverge. We're gonna go out of this mark or below it. And so, in preparing ourselves for that, again, we're going to be buyers at 85K down to 75. And we're just going to wait things out if we're between the 95 or 85 to 95. I hope that's clear. I hope that's clear. Now, what I will say, I'm going to get rid of these for a moment. I want a more clear chart as I try to explain some of this. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of some of the noise, um, because I want to have a clear discussion, right? Number one, going back to November, Friday, November 21st, until now. Although we are ranging, is it not also true that we are in fact going up? Is that not true? Let's see if this makes some sense to people here. When I draw a channel like this out, right? Because the previous one I drew completely horizontal, right? Because I wanted to show that there's a range I expect this to be in. But in reality, are we not going up very slightly, but we are in fact going up? Now, that might not mean a whole lot, but one thing it does mean is that we're not currently in a bearish environment. Now, could we be in a bear flag? The answer is yes. Bear flags do in fact look like this. This would be the flagpole, upward channel. It breaks the channel to come back down. So again, it might seem like I'm straddling the fence here. Like I'm trying not to give information that says that we are going in either direction. And if it comes across that way, it's because that's exactly what I'm doing. I don't know which direction we are going. I can make a case that we are going either up or down. And so I will continue to do that until the charts show me otherwise. That's the way I do things. Now, if you want to know how to handle it going up or down, go to the previous video last week. I explained that. I do want to change gears a bit here because although we gave kind of a review of the market for the week, I think there were some other interesting things that happened that I'd like to touch on. The first is going to be, or I guess the only. This is the other item I have for the week. Um, it's going to be looking at opportunity outside of crypto. Now, typically, I talk crypto because it's what I am most involved, most invested in, from ETFs to actual crypto. It's where I tend to specialize, where I put a lot of my evaluation. But something happened this past week that was unfortunate. The US continues to meddle in the business of other sovereign nations. Special forces went in and took out the leader of Venezuela. What happens from here, I guess, is a bit unknown, but based on what the Orange Goblin and unfortunately our president is saying, it seems like we are going to take control over their resources. What resource is that? That would be the oil industry. Now, I made a TikTok recently and I said, investing is oftentimes a very difficult, difficult thing to do morally. When the crash happened because of COVID, do you think it's moral to invest in stocks during that time? I did. I took advantage of what I viewed to be a global crisis that affected markets, and I bought many stocks, including crypto, during that time. Not everyone thinks that is moral. When Elon Musk was meddling in our government, trying to affect elections, heading up Doge, Tesla's stock plummeted, right? Now, during that time, I was saying, looks like Tesla is a buying opportunity, right? Through all of this is Tesla's chart. Okay. Up here, let's zoom in a little bit. From December 18th all the way to Monday, April 7th, 2025, Tesla had hit $213. I was saying Tesla is a buying opportunity from here, the 10th of March. And I continued to say it. Honestly, I think through mid-May or so, beginning of May. Now, did I buy Tesla? I did not. Why? I don't view owning Tesla stock as a moral purchase presently. I think Tesla is doing much more damage than good. And I was at one time a very strong believer in the brand Tesla in terms of what it could do for eliminating the need for oil and what it was doing in the automobile industry, electric car industry. I thought at one time it was a moral cause. I don't view that. I don't view it that way anymore. I think Elon Musk himself is far more problematic. I think his viewpoints are that they quite honestly couldn't be more contradictory of my own. And so I personally will not put my money into the pocket of someone like that, which is what you are doing when you're investing in a company owned by a person like that. Those are my moral views. Now, if we're looking strictly at investing, let's say you caught this a little late and you purchased on Tuesday, the 22nd of April. And let's say you're going to sell now because you didn't catch the exact top. You're not that good. But present day, it's at the $240 or so. That is an 86% return on your initial investment. 86%. That's significant. So if you only cared about money, or if you care about money and the cause of Tesla, the company, the person Elon Musk, you believed in both of those, would have been a great time to invest back here in April. I believe we have another one of these cases. Let's look at Chevron's chart. I'm going to zoom out here. Okay. Why are we looking at Chevron specifically? Well, there's a couple companies that you could look into. But one of the reasons we're going to look at Chevron is because of the geopolitical events of last week. US controlling the largest oil reserves in the world, which is Venezuela. If you didn't know that, the largest oil reserves in the world, Venezuela. All these talking points the Orange Goblin is using about drugs being the reason. The real reason is oil. I want to make sure we're clear on this. The real reason is oil. Chevron, they have established connections. They have stable demand. They're already integrated in the area. See this candle right here, this green candle? Do you see the movement since December? Do you see where we really started going up here? The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. Do we think this timing is coincidental? Or does this timing coincide with the events that recently took place? Ding, 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 ding. They coincide with the recent events. So what I'm saying here, Chevron, Halliburton, another one. Look at the movement here. Look at this movement. This is not a coincidence. Overall, look at the low points. I don't do guarantees because I don't know the future. But when I look at charts like this, I see a couple things. Number one, I see here, 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 all of this. That is all support. When it's come down to these levels, it's gone back up, with exceptions of the key support being here and here. Given the jump we just recently saw and the upward potential back in 2014 being upwards of 73K, if the US is going to help itself to Venezuelan oil, I expect these charts to continue upward momentum over time. I expect, if in all honesty, something something like this. That's my expectation. Now, today's, again, January 9th. We'll see if I'm right. This video will be here in the future. We can come back to it at some point. 2030 or so. We can come back to it at some point. 2027. Again, stocks move a lot slower than crypto. So you have some time, but to me, we're still in areas of buy. Look, this is all support, 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 support. Look where we are now. To me, these are still areas that are okay to buy in. If you were to set a limit order somewhere down here because you don't want to jump in now, I could say decent choice. If you were to say I'm going to get in a little bit now, I would say decent choice. And I would say the same thing about a Chevron. This, to me, upward trend followed by upward trend followed by a downward channel that is called a bull flag. In the same way, when we looked at the previous chart for Bitcoin, and I was saying, what about this? I drew out this channel and I said, this could in fact be downward pole, upward channel. That could in fact be a bear flag signaling eventual downward action down to here or continue. The reverse of that is what we are looking at in a much higher time frame. That's key information. Anytime you're looking at something in a bigger time frame, the likelihood of it happening is much greater. So this is price action going back to September of 2021. And you have all this upward momentum, a downward channel. This right here, to me, looks like confirmation. Looks like we hit the top of the channel after breaking out. From there, I would expect something that looks like this. Downward channel. after upward momentum, right? Downward channel after upward momentum. So would it shock me if on the top of this channel, we continued with something that looks like that? No, it would not. In fact, if we are going to help ourselves as a country, as a nation, the United States, to Venezuelan oil, this is exactly what I expect. So I'm going to leave you with one last potential play. It is going to be XLE. This is an ETF, an oil ETF. This is something that you could potentially invest in your 401k or your IRA. Something that if you're not as sold on an individual oil stock and you want a more catch 'em all group, could be a good play. Personally, again, this is to me a moral choice. Are you going to invest in these oil companies knowing that American imperialism is at play? That's up to you. I can't answer that question for you. I did so with COVID. I did not do so with Tesla. I had the same information both times. To me, this is another example. I did invest in each of these three. It does give me cause to pause. It was a difficult choice. That's the choice I chose to make. As always, I hope that this information is helpful to you. And I'm very happy that you're continuing to be in the group. Please let me know if anything I can do to make this more clear or better. And again, don't hesitate to ask questions underneath the posts of these videos. I will either answer them via a message right in thread, or I'll address them in the next class. So thanks for tuning in and be good, people.